this meeting to order. Everyone could please rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, if we could get a roll call.
Mr. Salmonero?
Here.
Mrs. Facette here. Mrs. Hartzell? Mr. McCullough?
Here.
Mr. Potts?
Here.
Mr. Ross?
Here.
Mr. Shaheen?
Here.
Ms. Fradowski? Here. And Mr. Basil?
Here. Okay, under announcements, we'll be having an executive session after this meeting to discuss some legal items. We also have this meeting is being recorded. And last but not least, 12D2M on the agenda should be read Manuela Worley, not Kathy Rem. Is that correct? It should read Manuela Worley.
Which one was that again?
12D2M. It's at page 5.
Okay, not Kemp, not Rem.
That's correct. Okay. Having said that, procedures for public participation are on the inside cover of the blue sheet. And having said that, is there any comments from the public on agenda items? Okay, seeing none. Dr. Otto, recognition for August.
We have none at this point.
All right, moving on to routine approvals. It is recommended the Board of Directors approve the minutes for June 27th and August 8th.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Seeing none. We get a vote.
I have a first made by Mr. Shaheen, a second made by Mr. Ross. Roll call. Mr. Salmonero?
Yes.
Mrs. Facette, yes. Mr. McCullough?
Yes.
Mr. Potts?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Shaheen?
Yes.
Ms. Fradowski? Yes. And Mr. Basil? Motion approved.
Moving on, do I have a motion for B or B and C?
BNC.
Second?
The first and second. Any comments from the board? Okay, seeing none.
I have a first made by Mr. Shaheen, a second made by Mr. Ross. Roll call. Mrs. Facette, yes. Mr. McCullough?
Yes.
Mr. Potts?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Shaheen?
Yes.
Ms. Fradowski? Yes. Mr. Salmonero?
Yes.
And Mr. Basil?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay, presentation by board members. Do we have any correspondence?
I have none.
Okay. BCIU, I see Mrs. Hartzell is not here. BCTC.
We actually meet this coming Wednesday. June's report, I believe you all have a copy of, but I don't have anything new since last time we met. We'll be meeting again on Wednesday.
Okay. Okay, no student government reports, legislative report?
A little bit of movement in Harrisburg, but I think the most important thing coming up is next Monday, I believe, at the middle school at 7 o'clock. Representative Maloney, will be speaking at more of a town hall meeting to talk about one of the property tax elimination programs that seems to be getting a great deal of steam. So I just want to make sure that if anybody wants to attend that, it'll be in the middle school auditorium.
It's at 7 o'clock, right?
7 o'clock, yeah. It seems, I've looked at a few of the things that are out there, and this one that the PCTA seems to be putting out seems to be the favored right now to eliminate property tax by rolling a number of things. And there was an article in the Reading paper that had some misinformation that was corrected, but he'll be taking questions and answers and presenting some information that hopefully if this works, it should help eliminate the property tax and be beneficial. So.
Mr. Shaheen, did you have time to open up the thing that's at our places
No, I did not.
tonight? I just opened it really quick, not knowing if it was correspondence, secretarial. but everybody got one, and it's an education issues survey, so you might want to open it. I haven't had time to read it, but
I
it might
actually
be
got one of
something.
those as well.
Yeah.
Have you read it yet? Is it, who's it coming
You
from?
just.
Coming from the Democratic side of the.
It's coming from the
It's just a-
appropriations chair.
It's just a general survey.
And that I'm guessing they're asking us if we feel we got enough funding.
Actually, I think it's a survey worth taking.
Okay.
I did look at it. It's pretty comprehensive. It allows you to express your opinion on either side of the issues.
Is it just the board members, or is it?
No, it's anybody.
It says
Anybody
dear
that.
educator, and then it
But there's a
says,
spot there for board members.
yeah,
that
teacher.
They ask you,
IT
do ask you
director,
to identify yourself, and you can take it online. I submitted mine online. Took about 25 minutes. It was a pretty long survey.
Okay.
I think it's worth, I mean, if you want to weigh in, I don't know
Right.
what they're planning to do with the results.
Well, anytime they ask us for our opinion, I think we should take
I
advantage
think
of
it's
it.
worth
so.
taking. It gives you a chance to weigh in on the issues.
Any other reports from other committees? I just report from the Berks EIT. We met a couple times this summer to find a new executive director, and we found a new executive director for the Berks EIT, and we'll be having another meeting in September to kind of finalize some things there and move that forward. So want to make sure the leadership was in place for that organization. And the previous executive director will be around to consult for a period of months afterwards to make sure the transition is a smooth one. We just had a finance committee meeting. Some of you were present for that. A couple of things came up in there. One was the schedule for providing a budget to the state has been moved up. And so we'll be having some discussions about the budget a lot earlier than previous years. And we're going to have, Ms. Penza is going to be providing to the board a schedule for the calendar year of what the budget deadlines will be, and we'll start that process of discussions a little bit earlier and be updating you on that. We also were provided a variance report for the past year, and included that were budgets from previous, or actual costs from previous years. And again, the business office will be providing that same information to the rest of the board before the end of the week. And two other items came up. One was we are having a discussion about a budget freeze. Again, this year, last year, the freeze was implemented in November, and I think the consensus of the committee was to go ahead and implement a freeze immediately this year, to start off the school year with a budget freeze. And so we're looking for some consensus from the board and some direction there to the business office. Any discussion?
I really didn't think there was a lift to spend more money, so I could have been wrong there, but I think there should always be scrutiny.
It's been formally approved before as a freeze, so.
We're just looking for a formal approval from the board and implement that going forward, so that, the administration has the authority to do that.
Have all the buildings ordered what they need for the school year, or certain
All the
things
bids
only
have come in,
available?
so,
All the bids have been in.
and we do
And
allow
awarded, so.
student necessary items.
I mean, the bid's always been, or the freeze has always been with the proviso that if it's essential, that, I think it's kind of the add-on stuff that we've frozen. But whatever the board's wish is, we'll implement. So
Again, the freeze isn't a full freeze. It's, hey, from now on, you got to approve it.
Sorry.
Sounds like a
My battery's going.
battery problem.
The thing turned on down there?
Huh?
Is that
He's not
strip
plugged
turned
in.
on?
He's plugged
I
in,
don't
not
think the
turned
surge
on.
protector's on.
The strip itself. There you go.
Hey, Mr. Roth,
There, now you got power.
Where's our IT?
yeah, again, it's not a full freeze. It's just somebody's got to approve it.
Well, that
Yeah.
should always be.
It should always be that way.
If there's no objections to that, then the answer is yes. We have consensus? Okay.
Sure.
At least you have consensus.
Do you want that as a formal vote in minutes?
Um,
or-
I don't know that we've ever voted in it. I
Yeah,
just put out.
yes, we
let's-
have.
Let's put it to a vote.
I make a motion that we put in place a budgetary freeze effective Immediately.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call.
I have a first made by Mr. Shaheen, a second made by Mr. Ross. Roll call, Mr. McCullough?
Yes.
Mr. Potts?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Shaheen?
Yes.
Mr. Twodowski?
Yes.
Mr. Salmonaro?
Yes.
Mrs. Fasette, yes. Mr. Basil?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay, great, thank you. And the last thing we sort of talked about were our attorney's fees. We were looking at that over the last 3 years, what the district has been spending, and we had chopped, this is one of the items we had chopped in our budget, and Mr. Sheehan brought up that it seemed that this year and this past year, board members were addressing or contacting the solicitor unilaterally more often than in the past, and we don't really have a formal policy on how we're going to do this, and so we're just sort of thinking that maybe as a board we need to have that discussion going forward as a way of keeping those costs down, so that if there's a request from a board member for a legal opinion, what's the proper channel for that request to move forward to the solicitor, and maybe there's a better way to do that as well. As the requests come forward, maybe as Mr. Sermonero suggested, we bundle those requests so that it's not onesie twosie, they all come in at once, and it gives the solicitor an opportunity to address them all at one time, as opposed to one letter at a time, or one opinion at a time, or one conference call at a time. So
I know we had talked about getting a breakdown of where the charges were. Did
And-
we get that?
that was just provided to the finance committee, and we can share all that.
Well,
with
I
the
think
rest
we
of
need to see that as a full board before we can have that discussion to see how much of an issue it is.
It seems to be an issue. I mean,
It
I
is.
did ask Ms. Spencer to send out that full finance thing, but yeah, it did appear that there were a number of times that, even sitting in the board meeting, I remember a couple of board, well, I contacted Mr. Supers on this, and it just seems like there was, I've heard an awful lot in the past year of individual, and I'm just as guilty as anybody else, saying we contact, based on this or something, and sometimes there were duplicate within a period of time where he said, you'll see an email saying, well, I've already, written my opinion on this, so I'll resend it back out to you again. So I think it was an issue, and in the past, if you remember, it was basically went through Mr. McCullough or Mr. Ross, and they were the contact point for the super.
Oftentimes, committee chairmen need to contact
Correct.
Mr. Zubers for various things. I know I'm certain that the negotiating committee would need to do that relatively frequently. We need to do that with the Act 93 agreement. Certainly, we need to do it when we're talking about the teachers' adjustments and their contract and so forth. So I think that as board members, he represents us as a board, and I think that we should use those services judiciously. I think we should have a gentleman's agreement or whatever, or gentle ladies, or whatever what the right term is to do that. But I don't think we should be restricting the use of solicitor when there could, any one of us might need those services at any point in time during the year.
Well, I don't think we're talking about limiting the use of the service. I think what we're talking about is maybe making sure that we don't have duplicative efforts going on. You don't contact the solicitor and ask him one question. I contact them 2 days later and ask him the same question.
And I agree with you as far as being a committee chair, but I can guarantee you that there were non-committee, and there were non-chair members of certain committees that may have, throughout the year, contacted with questions that should have gone through the committee chair. I think we've gotten away from the committee chair being a focal point to the superintendent, the board president, and the solicitor, and we need to get back to that. And that was the sole purpose of the comment that was made.
I think the superintendent should be always aware of any contact with the solicitor, and let's say he would be able to see if it's a duplicate request, as long as we're letting Dr. Otto know, gee, I need to talk to Mr. Zubers or whatever. I know last year, and it was regarding one of those legal letters with extracurricular grading and everything, I had a conversation with Dr. Otto, and because of all my history, he asked me to call him directly because it wasn't hearsay. So I think we need to respect the process and have everything, Dr. Otto be aware of everything, because he'll know if it's a duplication. But I don't want to tie the hands of a committee chair or somebody that has history and experience. If I call Dr. Otto and say, gee, could you ask Mr. Zubers about this? And he says, oh, you call him. I'd rather have you relay the requests. I know in the past, with legal issues, it only affected a few of us because of hearings. And then, of course, we would have to talk to them.
Well, no,
You know.
I think what we're looking at is we're just looking at, and when you see this list, I think it'll hit home a little bit more. I
Well,
think
let's see the list and then we can have the discussion.
I think what we have
because
to have
didn't all
is
see
more
it.
coordination, so that, you're not calling Dr. Otto and somebody else is calling the solicitor about the same issue. Or, a curriculum chair isn't calling, let me pick this, a revenue enhancement chair isn't calling and then talking about finance.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's just not,
Well, I think we
respective
need to
roles, so-
coordinate it all through Dr.
I
Otto,
think that'd
superintendent.
be-
He's the
yeah.
one that's available
Right. I think what I've tried to do
during
is,
this workday.
I think, I can hear myself saying this, do you want me to call Brian on this issue? And maybe some of you can remember me saying that. I will say that frequently, but I kind of agree with what Mr. Ross said about, I mean, if there are committee chairs that they've got a pressing issue and they need to call, I can certainly see that. I guess the only thing I could say is just be as judicious as you can with your time. I mean, it's not like we're talking about the weather when we talk. I mean, it's boom, 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 and we're done.
So I think I agree with Margaret, though, before they pick up the phone and just unilaterally call, maybe they ought to just check with you first, because
that's
at
however
least
you want
then
to do that.
you're aware of what the dialogue is, and then if another calling comes in later, you can say, oh, no, this has already been taken care of. It's not, Mr. Suber's getting the calls and trying to decide whether he should be, repeating the answer or not.
And especially, and I know, I'm assuming we have a legal file with all the opinions we've had in the past. And somehow, I'm hoping that's organized, because as you have new board members come on, you might be asking the same legal opinion that was at last year, when you could just pull it up and say,
Well,
oh,
that was
we
something
already
that was-
addressed
That was
this.
something that was brought up, that we'd ask that in the inside board section on our webpage, that we put a legal folder
Right.
and put all the opinions out there,
Yeah.
so that,
Yeah, if you have them in Word, you can do a word search.
yeah.
Right,
You know?
right.
PDF
Or even if
And
they're
I know I
PDFs, you can do a word
keep
search.
within
Yeah.
my group-wise a legal folder, and that was all the opinions on grading and everything, but that should be more readily available.
Well, I think I should be on the website under board documents in a legal file. And I'm thinking along the same lines, I mean, we can talk about the structure of the website later, but even when it comes to facilities or revenue enhancement or curriculum instruction, there should be a folder on the website for each one of those things. And, and maybe that's where the minutes for each of those committees are. And, summaries from the committee chairs, maybe once a quarter or a year end, saying these are the issues we discussed, and this is blah, 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 blah. So new board members and even old board members can go back into those files and review, oh, well, yeah, we talked about this issue, and this is what we discovered the last time. This is why we went the way we went, and so on and so forth. And I think that would be a lot easier, because obviously with people like you and Mr. Ross stepping off the board, we're going to lose a large transfer of knowledge. So that embedded history will no longer be at our fingertips. So to the best of our ability, we can get that where everybody has access to it. I think would be beneficial. Okay. All right. Well, that's all I had from finance. And
I have a question, I guess it's under finance. Daniel, can you tell us roughly what our fund balance was June 30th? I know it's not been audited, but since we're in the year, we're in the middle, almost in August.
3.4 million, we're adding
3.6
3.4.
is what roughly, I mean, I know you can't, it's not audited, so I'm not going to hold you to that.
I'll be getting it out to everyone. It's, we have an assigned fund balance of 641,000, which was what we used to balance 1112, and the unassigned is 3.4. We're adding about 866,000 to it. Need a surplus.
Okay, so we did end up with the surpluses.
Yep.
Okay, that's my question.
And when that audit will take place in...
They're coming out September 12th, and it has to be to the state by October 31st. So I would say they'd probably be presenting to finance or to the board November-ish.
And the surplus was why?
The excess revenue and the...
Because someone's going to stand up and ask that question, so I'm going to ask you.
Yeah, I mean, there was excess revenue that came in from various sources that we didn't expect, as well as savings from the retirement expense that was originally budgeted from
And the
10-11.
savings from Peasers was, you said,
About
600?
608,000.
That's the bulk of it.
Right. We budgeted
move that
Peasers
somewhere
at the
else.
rate that was
At
stated
the
at that time.
8.22.
And after we had done our budget, the state passed a law changing the rate to a
Correct.
lower rate at a
In
later
the
date.
middle
love
of
that.
July.
How do they expect us to do a budget if they don't know what they're gonna
Now we
have?
gotta do it earlier.
No, seriously, I mean, again, that's not a criticism of this board. We put the rate they gave us and they turned around and lowered it. How do we know that? They could have raised it for all we know.
And they still have it at what rate for next year that they want?
For 11-12, it's 865. For 12-13, it's, I want to say 12-19 or 12
Yeah, I'm
something.
thinking 12.
It is
Like
12, I
two-
don't know. I think,
Yeah,
I want to
so-
say like 12-19 or,
So,
so,
I'm sure the stick in the stock market will help.
oh, I'm sure.
Any other questions on finance? Any other,
I know I came in at the end of the meeting, were you talking about the activity fee and how that was being, how that implementation went? What was the discussion on that? I kind of
so
missed-
I guess the question was, what is the process that's in place now? And how is that being monitored? And Michelle has a spreadsheet that she's using, a model that she's using that has the rosters for all the different sports activities as well as band activities as well as club activities. And I suppose she's making herself available at all the different events to collect the fees that are due and, check them off on the box. This student's paid, this student hasn't paid, so on and so
Have we
forth.
seen any decline in participation with the fee implementation?
I think it's probably too early because I don't even
Yeah,
think
it's too
everybody's
early
paid.
because I
Well,
think
with
she
the fall,
has,
I mean,
yeah, but she
the
has
season's-
deadlines,
Okay.
I want to say next week,
isn't it night
so.
too?
Would we be able
It's
to
at
have
night,
that?
Well, that's what I
Analyze
asked
that she's
her
selecting?
to, I asked
She's
them
making
to
herself
provide
available,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
finance committee with a model, so we can at least see what the model is and see how she's doing this, because we don't even know how that's being done. And then certainly the finance committee, after we take a look, and we might have more questions, and then we'll provide it to the whole board.
I'm curious as to the participation, if that's
Get
been,
that number. That
if
shouldn't be
that's
too
been
hard to get.
affected, and also if we put in a procedure for financial need.
We did, yes,
We did.
because there's some that are already reflected on what she's given me, so, yes.
Does anybody know if there's been a decrease in band participation?
Yes,
Yes,
they moved one category down.
yeah, around 80.
Do they know, is it because of the fee, or is it because of the grading change? Could we find that out?
It's, from what I gather, it's a little both. Plus, it's a little bit of no eighth grade.
No
Eighth
eighth
No
grade.
what?
No eighth graders in the band this year. Between the grade and probably the fee. It's probably multiple things. But they're down whatever category.
But
How
they're
many
down
eighth graders?
80 kids, or they're
No,
down
no,
to
they're down to
80
80 kids. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
80.
They're down, they were like, what, 115?
125.
Something like that last year.
How many eighth graders were in the
They
first
had that
grade?
many last year?
Probably
I don't think
8
so.
to 10 maybe. Not many, but still.
Well, it's 30, that's a third of.
Might not even be quite that many, but I think maybe, like Margaret said, the grading point, grading might have done it. I'm not sure. Could be just a cycle.
Any other reports? Okay, seeing none, buildings and ground, nothing there. Financial approvals, do I have a motion for 1A
11A through D.
through D?
Second?
Any comments? Okay, seeing none?
I have a first made by Mr. Shaheen, a second made by Mr. Potts. Roll call. Mr. Potts.
Yes.
Mr. Ross.
Yes.
Mr. Shaheen.
Yes.
Ms. Twardowski.
Yes.
Mr. Salmonaro.
Yes.
Mrs. Fasette, yes. Mr. McCullough.
Yes.
And Mr. Basil.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay, moving on to number 12. Do I have a motion for A,
A through D.
sorry?
A through D.
A through D.
D as in David.
Okay?
Second?
Any comments? Okay, seeing none?
I have a first made by Mr. Shaheen, a second made by Mr. Potts. Roll call. Mr. Ross.
Yes.
Mr. Shaheen.
Yes.
Ms. Twardowski.
Yes.
Mr. Salmonaro.
Yes.
Mrs. Fasette, yes. Mr. McCullough.
Yes.
Mr. Potts.
Yes.
And Mr. Basil.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay, moving on to 13. A motion for A, 1, 2, 3, all of them, none of them,
13A through E.
13A through E.
Second?
Second, do we have any comments?
I had just asked the question about the high school handbook regarding the dance guidelines, to make it more clear as to what the intent was of who was allowed, because the first one reads, the prom and dances are for high school students and their guests. Are the guests of a certain age or above? Was there any discussion on that
Yeah, Mrs.
building level?
Trainer, that's it. Mr. Miller?
And in fact, I just sent a possible wording for you, Mrs. Facette, via email, to see whether you thought that was appropriate.
Can you just repeat it for us here?
Sure. The prom and dances are for high school students and their guests. All students and guests must be in ninth grade or above and are subject to the approval of the high school administration.
I think that more clearly defines it, and there won't be any question as to who has to go. So I would appreciate if we could do that change, that amended. Could you email that to the full board, Mr. Muller, so that everybody has it?
I'll take care of it. Just send that to me and I'll get it out.
Okay, as amended then.
As amended?
Yeah.
Second.
Are you okay with that amended?
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Any other comments? Seeing none, can we get a roll call vote?
I had a first made by Mr. Shaheen, a second made by Mr. Ross. Roll call, Mr. Shaheen?
Yes.
Ms. Stradowski?
Yes.
Mr. Salmonero?
Yes.
Mrs. Fasette, yes. Mr. McCullough?
Yes.
Mr. Potts?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
And Mr. Basil?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Number 14, policy, with the first reading of policy 914 for school volunteers. Any comments? Seeing none? Yeah, I know. Transportation? Anything? No? Okay. Old business?
I have a question. The transition house, is it going to be operational come the school year?
I haven't, I'm assuming yes. I haven't actually, I've seen some people up there working from the IU. They haven't indicated they've ended our lease, so it's really their program, so I don't.
I was just
I can
curious.
certainly,
I know
I
I've
can
been
check it.
seeing more
Yeah,
activity
I meant
there.
to stop in, but I don't want to step on their toes, so it's kind of their program. But yes, we are in our second year. We're not, they haven't indicated any desire to pull out, or I can certainly check with Mrs. Mikowski and see if.
That was based on one year lease, I believe, too. Correct?
I think it's automatically renewable.
Yeah.
Did you put?
Yeah, I think it's renewable with a termination provision.
So they can terminate?
Either party can terminate upon so many days' notice, and I think we probably have a broader right of termination depending on our need or for the property. Typically, that's my typical form lease. I'd have to look at it, but typically they would have to provide us X number of days' notice prior to the expiration of the then current term. We would have the same, but we also have like an emergency out provision in case, we're no longer able to provide the facility.
Obviously, we've counted $12,000 in that budget. So.
That's correct.
And I want to say it's like March to March. It's
I know
not
it
a
started
school
in
year,
March
it's a
already.
different, I want to say it's March to March.
I can check. I'll put something in the board update about that.
I'd just be curious as to know when they're going operational and how many students will be coming in.
I believe they had something in the spring. They did have a little ceremony, graduation ceremony. Mr.
Yeah, they
Smith was saying.
typically do that every year.
But they weren't using the house in the spring yet.
I thought they were.
Oh, yeah.
Were they?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
they
We
were.
ramped that up right away.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're using it.
You see that?
I never saw them.
It's all inside. I don't think they come outside much that I'm aware of.
Okay, any other old business?
I have another question under old business. Is there any update on the bathroom at the stadium at this point?
Yeah, plumbing's in, electric's in.
Good.
Deck's half up. If you get a chance, I go up every day to look and see what they're doing. They're up there putting the planks down. Kenny's guys are working real hard at it. And
So it'll be available for the
I
first...
don't want to predict, but Mr. Smith had said
We're leaning that way.
leaning that way. Leaning that way. It's exciting. It actually,
Good.
if you get a chance, if the deck is up and anybody wants a tour, give me a call. I'll take you down. But it's really nice inside. I mean, we got a good bang for our dollar there with that facility. And if you've seen it, it matches the concession stand when the growth comes up with the landscaping that we're going to put around it. I think it'll be a moot point, no one's gonna be worried about it, so. It's got a water heater, it's got lights, it's a modern facility, so. Yeah, it's moving along very well.
Great. Any other comments? Old business? Okay, moving on to new business. Ms. Penza?
Do you want me to?
Yep.
I guess I'm looking for approval to allow PASBO, Pennsylvania Associated School Business Officials, to complete a PlanCon J document, which is project accounting based on final costs for our middle school project. We were notified by the Department of Education that this was never completed when the middle school project was finished.
So Ms. Penza had gotten 2 bids, and they were...
One was for $5,000 and one was for $3,000. So I'm recommending the $3,000 proposal. I'm sorry, that was before.
It's actually just an accounting document, but the one thing, typically it results in a higher rate of reimbursement.
Right.
So you'll be getting more money from the state once this document, now, it has also been taking them years to approve them.
Yes.
But it's something that you're required to do. It's to your benefit.
You're supposed to do it within 3 years of the date the bids were opened, and that's kind of, should have been in
It's almost at 3
2007.
years.
No, it's almost at 7 years.
It's usually it's usually something that a financial advisor follows up on typically because they're,
Yeah, they want.
So I'd like to try to get that through if possible.
So if...
Is this something that's looked at retroactively back?
No.
you mean as far as the reimbursement, or
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that.
I'm sure there's some formula that they will apply to the whole application
There
process.
is, but it just depends how late we are, because it says that it could, our temporary could become our permanent if this is never filed.
Oh, well, that's what you want to do.
That's why I want to
That's
try
why
to
you have
get
do
it right.
Thank God the state's waited this long to give us some grace period here. So I think there's a motion.
Well, I'd like to make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Can we get a roll call vote?
What's the actual motion?
The motion is to...
Motion to approve PASBO at a rate of not to exceed, I guess, $3,000 to complete Plan Com Part J for the middle school project.
Okay. I have a first made by Mr. Ross, a second made by Mr. Shaheen. Roll call, Ms. Twardowski?
Yes.
Mr. Salmonaro?
Yes.
Mrs. Fasette, yes. Mr. McCullough?
Yes.
Mr. Potts?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Shaheen?
Yes.
And Mr. Basil?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay. Any other new business? Okay. Presentation by public.
Can I just, even though we've said it, school starts next Tuesday. It's just the case, that's why we're here. The kids will be back with us next Tuesday.
All right. Any comments from the public?
Rich Martino, 225 West Welsh Drive, in Douglasville, Amity Township. I have 3 questions that surprise revolve around finance. If I heard correctly, the state changed some formula in July. Our budget was finalized before that, and our taxes were raised to $500,000. The $800,000 windfall that I heard about, wouldn't it be fairer to put that aside to work against next year's budget instead of going into an unassigned fund where it may disappear?
Well, I
That's
guess...
the same process.
I guess the issue is right now it's sitting in the general fund balance, and it can be used for whatever the board decides to use it for. And you can designate that money for specific use and set it aside, as I think what you're suggesting.
That's what I'm suggesting.
You can set it aside to balance the budget. You can set it aside to take care of increasing PZER's costs going forward by the very schedule that the state has since applied since the vote. Because I think next year, we have a 4% increase in the PZER's requirement. It goes from 8 to 12, and that will be a big consideration in that budget. I think that's the 13-14 budget
12,
year?
13.
12-13 budget year, where that spike will go into place. So I don't think that tonight was the appropriate place to sort of have that discussion. This is a voting meeting, but certainly we'll be taking up that issue in the Finance Committee, and when the budget meetings come forward, we'll certainly be talking about that in budget meetings with the whole board.
It's also, it's not,
Right, I mean, pursuant to a budget freeze, right, we obviously can't just spend that money willy-nilly this year anyways. We just passed the budget freeze.
and just keep in mind, it's not been audited yet, and there could be other adjustments. So the board will take up all those things once it's finalized.
Yeah, I think we have to wait till November when we get the final audit and we know what the real number is. And there'll be a discussion at that time relative to the budget process as well as that, what those funds are going to be used for. Yeah, absolutely.
Or not used for.
Or not used for, right.
Along the same lines of the budget, there was much made of the fact that the teachers' union postponed their raise and made other concessions to help us meet the budget this year to the tune of about $1 million. What was given to the teachers in order for them to do that?
Well, I believe what we did was, with the exception of the kindergarten furloughs that were already in place, there was an agreement not to furlough additional teachers this year, and we extended the contract 1 year with a increase, I think, of 3% as opposed to 4 or 4.5%, what was originally built into the contract for salary increases. And negotiation committee can pipe in if I've missed anything, but I believe that was pretty much the
Well,
big ticket items.
we offered the early retirement, which is something they want, which was something they could take back to their,
And they took advantage
they
of it.
took
We had
advantage of that. We
30-some-odd teachers that
we also
took
gave,
advantage of that.
which was this year, and then there was a benefit for teachers who came back and said they were going to retire at the end of this upcoming school year. There was a benefit for that. So there were a number of things that.
I ask because when this was brought up before, it was said the agreement hadn't been finalized yet, so you couldn't discuss it.
I mean, net it was about $1 million with the puts and takes.
I think what they gave up were, I mean, it was essentially holding the salaries
Educational
at
reimbursements.
the same level. The education reimbursements, they waived those for this year, and
Extracurricular stayed at this year's rate.
Right.
The stipend stayed at this year's rate.
right, we froze some of the stipends and things of that nature. So and we could put together a list of details. I mean, but the contract, the addendum to the contract is now signed, and it's part of public record. Anyone has access to that.
One last thing, I was looking at the treasurer's report. I've never seen one like this where it shows that you've so far spent 6% of this year's budget, but is the budget allocated monthly, or do we just at the end of every month find out how much we spent?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes?
At the end of every month.
So there's no control that so much is allocated this month and we know whether we're running over or under budget?
Our budget is a yearly budget.
But isn't that how last year we came up and found out we were running $5 million in the hole?
Well,
No.
No, we were at $5 million. We were at $5 million in the hole on a projected moving forward budget for this upcoming year. We were never in a whole $5 million.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, at what point come February, March, April, do we realize we're not going to come in within budget? I mean, how are we controlling it?
We were under budget for 10, 11.
I think
what he's asking is,
he's asking on your
we
monthly
create a
financials,
budget, now is
is there
that budget broken down into monthly budgets? And then are we tracking whether we've met the monthly budget or not met the monthly
In order to
budget
control it.
in order to
exactly.
control costs? I mean, I think one is we have a spending freeze in place. We had one in last year as well, starting November, which prevents any spending beyond what has already been allocated in the budget, correct? So you're not allowed to spend more than what's already been budgeted. Now, I don't know to what degree we've actually gone in into the weeds and put together a monthly budget for every single department. I got to assume it's lumpy. Some things are cyclical, or even some are lumpy. We're going to spend more on in one given month than you do in the next, just because that's when the costs come in. I don't know to what degree that we've done that, or what degree the individual departments have done that, other than at the end of the year maybe they're assembling all that. This is a work in process for the Finance Committee. We're just trying to make sure we're getting the right codes applied to the appropriate costs, so that, going forward, we can see that, yeah, okay, this cost came in and this is where it's supposed to be allocated, and that reflects where we budgeted the money. In the past, there's been some discrepancies there. So, we're trying to make sure that we're getting the processes in place that allow us to provide accurate budgeting and accurate accounting of where our costs are going. And I think once we have that done at a macro level, we can move farther down into the weeds and find out exactly where we go on a month-to-date and a year-to-date, and whether we're doing things appropriately. Right now, the only time we've ever done a year-to-date is when we've approached our business manager during the budget discussions, just said, well, where are we right now with what we've spent in this cost category vis-a-vis the budget? And it's hard to measure whether you're on target or not on target, because you're looking at a year-end number. And,
Exactly.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah.
But
I think there's work that needs to be done on
But
that.
she,
And I
but
don't,
she is looking at budgeted versus actuals on both the revenue and the expense side on an ongoing continual basis. So it's not like we wait till January and all of a sudden we look at it. I mean, on a monthly basis, that's where you get your report. I mean, Mrs. Tunja will look at our
Oh, yeah, we get a
actual
monthly
versus
treasurer
budgeted
report.
revenue and actual versus budgeted expenses on an ongoing basis. Unfortunately, it's not like we get a monthly paycheck. We get a chunk of money here and a chunk of money there, and we run through, and they run through that. But it is looked at on a monthly basis, budget versus actual.
Yeah, but what I'm reading, Walt, is that revenue is 6.08% of revenue as compared to the last budget year, but 6.48 of expenses. And looking at the actual numbers, this year compared to last year, we've overspent by $100,000 already.
well, correct me if I'm wrong. Is that the budget report?
Yeah, I mean, 6.8%, 6.08 is what we've received so far of
Right.
budget.
It's not a
For
comparison.
11-12, it's not a comparison.
So-
It's the 11-12 budget versus what we've brought in revenues so far. So we've received 6% of our revenues for the year at this
Spent
point.
6.48.
And we spent 6.48, which we knew
Yeah, so
is
what
debt
happens
service
is,
and
Yeah.
payroll for the
We
summer.
know that happens, because we know that's one of the things we talked about ongoing, that until sometime in September, we don't get our property tax number. We don't get those dollars. So we have a July and August where we don't get a
So the
bump of
biggest-
money.
But then there is a point where this should catch up.
Correct.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, so-
It
It's
gets-
September.
it
There's
flips.
September.
just so you know, the expenses that the district, the biggest expenses the district incurs in the month of July, the first month of our fiscal year,
July 1.
are salaries and benefits. We have 2 pay periods in July, and then there's another one at the beginning of August, and we have debt service. We have a huge debt service payment. I think it's the end of July.
July 1st
July
and August
1st
15th.
and August 15th, right. And that's the 2 huge payments. And that's one of the reasons why we've been carrying a fund balance of about $2 million a year, because those expenses are about $2 million, okay? And we need to have the working capital to pay those bills. And then our revenue starts to trickle in,
Catch up.
in the beginning of the year as tax payments are made and whatnot. But come, I think, the tax deadline, which is like the 3rd week of August, the 4th week of August,
31st.
we get like a shot in the arm of like $20 million comes flooding in all at once, because all those mortgage companies that are
Discount.
prepaying, the taxes, they get
Hold
the
our escrows
discount.
and give, and then also spit it out at the last possible minute.
Right.
Get it.
And you get another 10 million or so in September, and then it sort of peters off, and I think you get the state funding in October, somewhere around that.
August.
And it's another $7 million there, and so, I'm happy to provide you with what that distribution is in terms of our income. Our income is front-loaded in the fiscal year, and then we spend it all down to June 30th. And our expenses tend to do this throughout the year. And so I'm happy to provide you some sort of bar graph so you can see what that is.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, David Poole. Just want to ask one question. The committee of the whole, it was discussed that we needed to give some consideration to academic standing versus participation in activities. Is any more consideration given to that?
That will be discussed on the Curriculum and Instruction Committee on the 7th of September.
You're talking about athletic eligibility.
Well, it's
Yeah,
going to be all activity.
Activity eligibility.
I'm
yeah.
sorry, I'm
Because
not
that-
supposed to say that word
that
anymore.
was shocking.
Activity eligibility.
Yeah.
What we learned and,
Oh,
yeah,
rabbit style.
a little disturbed. So I'm happy that you're going to be taking that under consideration. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Motion adjourned?
Seeing none, motion to adjourn. Second. Meeting adjourned. Going to executive session.